5, 4, 3,
Gary,
2, 1.
Welcome to the weekly episode of the Freelancer Codex podcast. Your host, Steven, and co-hosts Mike, Devon, and JD are all set. Join us and tweet your questions at Freelancer Codex. Find us on Facebook at Freelancer Codex, or send emails to freelancercodex@gmail.com. Strap into your javelins and let's drop in.
Welcome, Freelancers, to episode 43 of the Freelancer Codex podcast, the longest running Anthem podcast on the internet. I am your host, Steve, along with my co-host. I can't do it too fast, man. I was going to go for a speed run introduction because of GDQ, and I just kind of lost it there at the end. So props to all the speedrunners that are raising money for Doctors Without Borders. Good for you guys. But I am your host, Steve, and this is the longest running Anthem podcast on the internet. I'm here with Mike, Devon, and JD. And guys, I want to know, since we've got a lot of new listeners coming in from a lot of the interviews that we've been doing, or the one interview that we have for you guys tonight. So I want to know, in light of games done quick, what is that one game that you guys think you can complete faster than your group of friends that you play video games with? Mike, we'll start with you.
All right, so freelancers out there, this is Mike. I think that amongst my regular group of gaming partners that I can speed run Lego Marvel superheroes.
It's just, wow, you're going for the big ones there.
I'm going for the big one. I can get it all and do it all and get do we have to do this with achievements?
No.
Or just beginning to end? Okay, well then yes.
So it's not like a completionist run, just
It's not a completionist run because man, that would take forever.
oh man.
Yeah.
JD,
Forever.
what's that one game you can complete faster than all your friends?
Probably the original Mass Effect. I beat that game 11 times, and I know it backwards and forwards. I can get through it, not in a very short time, but faster than everybody else. Definitely.
What's the runtime on that? Is that like a 20-hour completion? Because that doesn't sound fast. Games are quick.
I think it's. Well, I don't play a lot of short games, but probably about like 15 hours. I can get through it.
Oh wow, that's the longest speed run I've ever. Devon, what do you got?
So for me, it's Halo. I guess it just depends. I would say, because when I play the campaign, I usually start it and play till it's done. So. And most other people, they're like, "Oh, I'm tired. I go to sleep," and so I'm finished before they even wake up. So I mean, I guess if you put it into time-wise, I don't know if I can beat it faster than everybody else, but I'm usually the first one to finish the story out of my group of friends. So
you could speed it. So are you talking Combat Evolved or just any Halo that releases?
Just any Halo. I remember when Halo Reach came out, I was playing with my friend Justin Page, and he fell asleep in the chair sitting next to me while we were playing co-op. During the campaign.
I think that's more an indictment on you than it is him.
He had his own screen and everything. We were playing, and he fell asleep while we were playing Halo Reach.
That's kind of
wake
funny.
him up.
Were you playing and also giving an entire history of the Geneva Conventions or something, or what was it?
No,
funny.
he was just older than I am and gets tired. So.
Well, for the younger listeners, there was a time when games would release at midnight, and the only way to get them is you had to go to a store. You had to stay up late and actually go there. So, I mean, I can see why you'd get tired. So.
Yeah, no, I'm glad I don't have to do that anymore. I haven't bought anything from GameStop since then. So.
And we
Yes, but you've got some hidden agendas there. We won't talk about. I like how you look away when you mention that store. So let's send this question out to the rest of our listeners and tweet us. What game can you do quick, beginning to completion? Tweet us out and let us know which one that you think you can do.
We'll just totally skip over mine, Mike. It's okay. I understand you don't want to hear how good I am.
Steve, do you play games?
I actually haven't played a video game in like 7 years. So
it's been a while.
Who was I playing with the other night then? I don't understand.
It was probably me.
It was me wearing a Steve mask.
So I'm very confident that I could beat The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening faster than all the people that I play games with. So I've been in that game more times than any other game that I've completed on the Game Boy. So that's one I know like the back of my hand. So
I don't think I've ever even completed it.
I don't think you've ever owned a Game Boy. So there's that.
Whatever.
Shots fired.
A Game Boy? Does the 3DS not count?
No, it doesn't because it's not a Game Boy.
Whatever.
It's a 3DS. So we had a giveaway that we were doing for the Interceptor poster that we got from EA Play when we went down to LA. So right now we're going to choose the winner of this fancy poster. We shipped out the Storm poster last week, so some lucky winner that retweeted is going to get this. So I'm going to click this button, and it's going to tell me who won this thing. Hopefully it's someone in the United States. So right now, all right. So Lone Nomad. Let's see if Lone Nomad followed us like he was supposed to do. Yep. Lone Nomad followed us and retweeted the tweet, and you are now the lucky winner of this Interceptor poster. So we will contact them, and we will make
Congratulations, Lone Nomad.
Congratulations.
You can put it up in your roaming tent, because I assume the Twitter handles really like embrace and embody who you are. He really is a nomad. How does he listen to us?
I don't know. That's a good question, Mike.
I would imagine it's a hotspot of some kind.
Like a hotspot, like Arizona hotspot?
He rolls into town and gets to the local cafe and
He is the man with no name.
Starbucks.
Did
Lone
say
Nomad,
Wi-Fi?
congratulations. Winner of an Interceptor poster.
it's a great looking poster.
It's
Do you want us to
very
sign it? I don't know
Great
if we
work.
should sign
Probably
it.
doesn't
We
work.
won't sign it.
Did you guys know the longest-
Devon choked on his
you guys
stuff
know
there.
the longest
My
running
water.
Anthem podcast on the internet, and that we only focus on Anthem related content. That's not really true, but we try to as much as we can.
Yeah,
This-
we do.
Had a great opportunity to sit down and talk with Mike from
Gamble?
BioWare.
Yep.
What?
Mike Gamble.
Oh, you're on a first name and last name basis there. So Mike Gamble was gracious enough to get in contact with us and give us an exclusive interview about.
After months and months of badgering and restraining orders for all of us, and like he granted us that interview as long as we were 500 yards away from him at all times. So we appreciate
None
you,
of us
Mr.
are no
Mike Gamble.
longer.
Yeah.
We're no longer allowed in Canada,
in all of Canada. That's harsh.
That's
So
a big.
without
even
further-
Saskatchewan.
Without further ado, we present you with our interview.
My name is Mike Gamble. I'm a lead producer here on Anthem at BioWare. I've been with BioWare for close to a decade now. Worked on a lot of Mass Effect stuff, and now I'm on Anthem.
All right. Well, we're going to start with, we at the Freelancer Codex like to ask the hard-hitting questions. But Stephen really wanted to know, what is the most popular snack at the studio?
Okay. Well, I guess it depends. I mean, everyone kind of likes different things. They bring breakfast every day. Most people they just love to eat Blastos because Blastos is the cereal champions. But like most of us just eat garbage in the morning, and then some of the smarter ones eat things like bananas. So I don't think there's an actual favorite thing. It's just everyone's different. Everyone's kind of random. It's especially different between, back in the Mass Effect and Dragon Age days, there was a very different vibe going on. A lot of the Mass Effect people would just drink Red Bull in the morning, and all the Dragon Age people would eat apples and fruit and be all healthy and granola. So I don't know how much has changed, really.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. We're a studio of champions with our breakfast.
I like it. Okay, so what is your current mood at the studio after EA Play and everything that went on?
Oh, that's a good question. And just so you know, I didn't read really any of these, so
Okay.
these are all brand new to me. So it's actually pretty good. Coming back from EA Play and E3, when you put a lot of effort into something and you put a lot of heart into it, you don't know how it's going to be received. And then when you see people enjoying it and you're happy with the feedback that's coming through, it's really encouraging. So usually coming out of E3 is a pretty positive experience. This time is no exception to it. We have to do a bunch of work to finish a game in time to launch. So that little bit of extra gas in the tank definitely helps. One thing was really interesting though when we're looking at kind of all the coverage and what people think, the folks who got to play the game, and we apologize that it wasn't everyone and a huge massive thing, but everyone who got to play the game really liked it. The most positive things that you see about the games are the ones who actually got from the people who got their hands on the controller, which is probably the the best message that we can get, right? Because
Yeah.
oftentimes when you're marketing a game or you're kind of releasing it to the world, it's the opposite, right? Like, the game can look great until people get their hands on the controller, and then they're like, well, all right, that wasn't 100%. It's the opposite right now, which is like the closer people are to the game, the happier they are, and the more positive the feedback. So that's super encouraging for us at the studio.
Excellent.
We were also wondering, what javelin do you usually use? Do you main?
Well, right now, I play all of them. I kind of have to, because we want it to be so that you can kind of pick and choose based on your feels of the day.
Uh-huh.
Like if you wanna feel fast and agile, you're gonna want to go with the interceptor, and if you want to be a little more back and supporting, you want to be the storm, and if you want to get into the thick of it, you can kind of go with the ranger of the colossus. So I kind of play all of them. When we review missions, we try and do a good cross section of trying different javelins, different combinations between different players, right? So when we review a mission, we'll normally have 2, 3, 4 players. Sometimes we'll have one, and then we try and kind of mix it up, especially with customization and playstyle. So I play them all right now. I think when the game ships, the one that I'm gonna probably put the most of my time into is the Storm. And it's weird because I never really played kind of mage characters on any of our previous games, or even other kind of competing titles. I don't really play as casters, but the Storm. He just looks so cool. I like, honestly, and the cape is, if we can get the damn physics to calm down on the cape and stop flapping in the wind all the time, I think the Storm is one of the coolest looking, personally for me anyway. So I think I'm gonna main that.
Well, actually, just a quick follow-up question: is it possible to use the Storm and not have to wear the cape, or is that...
No, not right now. I mean, but,
Right now.
but if this damn thing doesn't calm down, you never know. Like, we just might get angry at it and threaten it with deletion. It's weird. If you threaten things with deletion in the game, usually they behave themselves. We were just looking at Tarsus this morning, and the crowds were kind of doing some random stuff, and it's weird. Like, as soon as you call it out, as soon as you say, like, hey, that guy's now standing on a table, you turn the camera away and you turn it back, and he's no longer standing on a table. It's like they can hear you. Anyway, yeah, we'll see about that. The cape looks pretty rad, so you kind of wanna. It's definitely a differentiating part of what the Storm is. So we'll do our best to make it play nice.
Cool.
Can you explain some more about the Scar? We know they're not human,
Right.
and they look they have a kind of like a humanoid shape, and we know they have some kind of connection to the Shapers. So what is it that makes them not human?
Well, okay, so I don't want to give away too much spoilery stuff because they do have a tie back to the Shapers, and they do have a tie back to the Shaper artifacts, and they kind of have a tie back to the Anthem of Creation as well. So that's all part of the story and things that you get to discover when you play the game. They are more insect based, so you'll notice that there's an obvious tell when you play the game that the Scar are around when they have these swarming kind of insects, and yeah, I'm trying to thread the needle between spoiling too much.
Don't spoil it if you can't. You don't need to worry about it.
So they have something to do with insects and Shapers at the same time. How's that? I'm just leave it at that.
That'll work.
Oh, that's more than enough. Can you tell us if the Colossus uses a melee weapon, or does that javelin just hit the enemy with its hands or shield? Like, is there a specific melee weapon for the Colossus? Any of them?
We're kind of currently iterating on that. The specifics of what that melee experience looks like, right? For ship. So right now, the Colossus basically uses a combination of his hands and shield to kind of do melee stuff. So you'll have the opportunity to, you've seen it a million times, ground pound and use kind of his fists as the melee weapon. And then there's another thing, like when the Colossus is running, you'll be able to kind of do a little bit of a shield bash. So those are the primary things right now. And likewise with the other exos, each of them have their own unique melee attack. Now, whether or not that uses a specific weapon or what that weapon is, that's what we're still kind of getting to the core of it. We know what the behavior is, and we know what the kind of animation set that we want to use for each of them is. So that's all figured out. It's just the specific presentation. We want to do a couple different ideas and give it a couple more rounds of iteration before we really kind of finalize on that. So it's a bit of what you said, but it's kind of open to change as well.
Excellent. Perfect. All right, well, the next question we have here for you, so they've talked about cosmetic customization on weapons in Anthem. The main thing I was wondering was, will we be able to modify the weapons in more than just a cosmetic way?
Right, so that's one of the things that we'll probably talk about more in the next couple months.
Okay.
Specifically, how you have customization built into the games. I will say though that the root of kind of the loot chase in Anthem is to find amazing new gear pieces and amazing new weapons. There's ways to make weapons better and customize specifics in them in terms of things like infusions, which we'll talk about a lot more later. But the focus really isn't on uniquely customizing each individual weapon. It's more about chasing that brand new weapon that we have in the game. But we'll talk a lot more about that in the next couple months when we go deep dives into weapons and customization and stuff like that.
Cool. All right. All right, so the next question is kind of also about weapons, but so Jonathan, he listed pistols, auto rifles, shotguns, grenade launchers, and miniguns as primary weapons. Will there be any more types of weapons or just heavier variants of those weapons?
We're looking at a couple different types. We are looking at weapons that are outside of that list as well.
Okay.
I don't want to talk about them because, and I don't want to be cagey on this needlessly. I just don't want to promise something and then people are like, well, why didn't you include the thing that you said in the podcast interview one time?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
That has certainly happened to me in the past, my friend. So I want to avoid that. But we are looking at different ones, and ultimately, the razor is if they play fun and they look great, then they can go into the game. But if they don't play fun and they ruin the balance in some way, or they're just not hitting that kind of super heroic vibe that we want to get, then they're not meant for our game, right?
Yeah.
This question is pretty straightforward, but can you tell us more or anything further about the Anthem of Creation?
Okay, well, so the Anthem of Creation is, actually, just to kind of go back first, so you guys are familiar with the premise of the IP. So the Shapers were creating the world, and they disappeared.
Yep.
And they kind of left behind these giant Shaper artifacts and Shaper relics. And the Anthem of Creation is kind of a core energy. I don't even want to call it energy, but that's the closest thing to kind of describe it as an energy that runs through a lot of these different things. They can power Shaper relics. They can make Shaper things activate and do really, really odd things. And it's kind of the tie that binds all of this stuff together. It's a kind of a creation force. And you have Anthem of Creation activating Shaper things which cause unpredictability, they cause danger, they cause chaos. And the commonality between all of those different activations, in addition to, what's up with the scars and what are the Dominions seeking, is the Anthem of Creation. It's super tied to the core of the story. You find out a lot more about it when you play a critical path story of the game, what it is, what it was used for, how it can be misused, how it can be even more dangerous than people imagine. So it's core to kind of the story that we're telling. Yeah, I mean that's kind of the nuts and bolts of it. Specifically, how it manifests and where you show it, you'll be able to see it represented in the world, as I said, through Shaper stuff. But you'll also see, you might have seen in the E3 demo, there are these echoes, which are kind of artifacts of the Anthem of Creation, which power Shaper technology. So it's just core to the experience.
Okay. I just want to do a follow-up question on that. Does it annoy you that Steven calls the Shaper Relics extension cords? That's what he refers to the Shaper Relics as, extension cords.
No, trust me. One day on Twitter with me, and that, like, there is literally nothing that could possibly annoy me. That kind of stuff. But let me ask you, why does he? Do you know why he calls them that?
Well, he says because he's like, what else, has power and takes it to one place to another, and so he refers to them as extension cords because they can be plugged in, and the Anthem of creation or some kind of power can go through them. I was like,
okay. So I'll fix his analogy then, because that's a bit incorrect.
Excellent.
The Shaper relics are more like power outlets than they are extension cords. So they're sources of activation for power rather than the ability to bring power from one place to another. Because the Anthem of creation, this energy is around us all the time.
Okay.
It just manifests itself at these Shaper relics that you can kind of with and maybe have disastrous things happen. So there's the adjustment to this analogy. But still, no, it doesn't annoy me. You can call them whatever you want.
Excellent. All right.
Can you clear up if there are indeed items and secrets to find underwater? Because one of my fears coming out of the demo, especially what we had seen with the 2017 E3 reveal and the demo there, is that maybe like it ease my mind and find out that it wasn't actually just a hidden loading zone.
Right. Right. Well, so they're not necessarily loading zones whatsoever. Underwater is explorable now.
Okay.
The activities that you can do underwater, we're still finalizing that. We'll talk more about that later. But one thing I can say is, you're not fighting underwater. At the very least, you're not fighting underwater. But there's secrets and there's lore in the world, and there's things that we want to kind of tuck away in some of those underwater caverns, and they are certainly not loading streaming tunnel things. You can access cool new explorable spaces through underwater caves and things like that.
Yeah.
But it's not just about that. But the most important thing to take away from that is that combat right now is not happening underwater. We're not focusing on that whatsoever.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, because I remember all that from the original Mass Effect, the elevator rides, and I didn't even know what that was until I was like, hey, there's no loading screens. Hey, the elevator rides go on.
Yeah. No, you're it's full gameplay. Like you have full control of the character. You can break the surface of water at any time that you want. Like it is not a loading thing. I promise you that.
Cool.
All right, that's amazing.
What can you tell us? So we have another question. What is the hardest part of creating a brand new world, right, or a new IP?
Well, there's a lot. So whenever you create a new IP, getting off that first page is the hardest part, right? Because there's no shortage of great ideas in the world. I mean, there's lots of really cool concepts that anyone can kind of come up with, but you want a concept that has infinite promise, right? So that you can build on top of, and you want a context for everything that you can build on top of and create a game out of, right?
Yeah.
And that's more than just a singular set of great ideas. They have to flow together. They have to make sure that they provide reasonable constraints for, oh yes, this is in the IP and this is not in the IP, but they have to be able to be built on. And so getting that first one page of the IP is the most challenging part. Because once you have that first page, then pages 2 through 1,000 come easier. But getting that first page is the most challenging thing. And then so you take ideas and iterations and sometimes dozens of different iterations on a set of ideas before it actually kind of clicks. And it is what it is, right? And that sometimes takes months, sometimes years, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the most challenging part of building a new IP. And then after you've got that, then it's okay, well, right, now that I have this understanding of a world that is ever changing based on this technology from these gods. Now that you have that, then you're like, oh, well, in that world, then we have these factions who will believe in the gods, and some of them won't, and some of them will understand the technology, and some of them won't, and then you build on top of that, and it's like, I have the heroes of the factions. Oh, the Freelancers. Oh, the Sentinels. Oh, the Lancers. Like, every kind of layer gets built on top of the other. And as long as the foundation is extremely strong, it all holds together. But getting that foundation is that's the taxing part. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, for sure. I guess to kind of go back to the underwater a little bit, we already kind of know about the flying mechanics, how you can upgrade your javelin so you can fly for a longer time, correct?
Yep.
Is there a similar feature for swimming underwater for exploration? Where you can hold because you can see in the demo where the oxygen meter was kind of going down.
Yeah. So pilot progression and javelin upgrades and stuff, they'll affect flight and they'll affect underwater as well because we're trying to encourage the usage of both.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting, and I think what the gameplay team has really nailed, is the control scheme really is kind of seamless between those two experiences. So you have underwater, you have a similar set of controls. For example, you press the left stick to fly when you're in the air. Mm-hmm. And if you fly and you break the water surface, the left stick is what propels you forward. Likewise, if you're swimming underwater and you're pushing forward, as soon as you break the water surface, you start to fly. So that kind of seamless thing between flight and underwater has been one of the focuses of the gameplay team, and hats off to them because I think they really nailed it. So you'll be able to kind of feel as though the experience is seamless. And then, of course, to your original question, we've got different progression. We've got different things that we want to do to make the underwater experience upgradable as well. So
cool. Yeah, I know when we got to watch the demo a couple of times at EA Play, and it just seemed super smooth. When you changed from walking to running to flying and then going into the water, everything was just super smooth. So
yeah. Once you get your hands on the controller, you'll be able to really feel it. And this is kind of my earlier point. Once you get that, then you'll kind of understand. Oh, it was that easy, or this is intuitive. Mm-hmm. And if it feels intuitive to the players, then that's the biggest. That's the biggest thing, the biggest initial challenge, right? If you get it, these complex systems now just kind of flow seamlessly through the controller, then it's like, all right, now I can take in the rest of the game.
Were there any narrative or gameplay elements from previous BioWare games that you chose to either replicate or exclude from Anthem?
Well, I mean, there's a couple which we've already talked about. So like romances, for example, we're not really focusing in on the romances as much. That was something that we focused in on the previous BioWare games. However, what we did bring in from previous BioWare games is kind of the sense of camaraderie and relationships with these new characters that you're finding in Tarsus. So we're focusing in on that. Consequence and choice, we want to bring elements of that into Anthem as well. We definitely want to pay attention to that aspect of the storytelling. I think if you look back at kind of BioWare games in general, they've continuously evolved throughout the different titles in terms of the gameplay responsiveness and mechanics. From Mass Effect 1 to 2 to 3 to Andromeda, we've always kind of made gameplay feel a little bit better, and we've added new elements to it. And you saw we took Mass Effect 1 to 2 to be a proper cover-based shooter, and we tightened up the gunplay a lot. And then from 2-3 to Andromeda, we introduced the concept of the jetpack. And so there's an evolution there. And in Anthem, I think is kind of the next kind of version of that. So by the players being able to take good flight, the players being able to rely on gear in addition to weapons, because we had powers before in Mass Effect. So that kind of evolution we've taken from the previous ones. It's a combination of all of that stuff. But Anthem is something that's uniquely its own at the same time, right? And the world is very, very different than it was for Mass Effect. We're not building Mass Effect or Dragon Age with Anthem. We're building Anthem. We hope that Anthem kind of finds its own groove, its own audience, and people like it for what it is.
Is there something that you wished all gamers would understand from a developer's perspective? Like, of course, the misconception that changes are easy to make in a game.
Yeah.
Something to that effect.
Yeah, so that's a tough one. That really is, because I'm a gamer and a game developer. So I put myself in the shoes of a gamer a lot of times, right? And so if a product isn't doing something for me, and I'm spending my $60 on it plus anything else that I spend, DLC or whatever. Like, I don't really give a shit at that point. I'm a consumer, and like, I want the best product possible, and I'm demanding that. And I respect that in our fans because it pushes us to do the best that we can. But also, that's the kind of that's the approach that I take as a gamer and someone who plays different products. So all that said, it is challenging in this day and age to make major changes in short amount of time. And when you think about a game development on a AAA title, and this is not just BioWare or EA, this is kind of everywhere in the industry. You have these massive teams. Sometimes pivoting those teams is like pivoting and planning and trying to be predictable with those teams. It's like turning the Titanic, right? And it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of effort, and it's rare that it gets done 100% right. And to be honest, nearly every game that I've ever been in development in, and I'm sure that a lot of the other teams in the industry see the same way, the game that you end up with is an evolution over the years of all the different decisions that you're making compounded together. And you always make decisions that you're not happy with so that the game will eventually actually come out so that people can play it. And you always have regrets. You always have things that you would want to do differently, and sometimes hindsight is 20/20. In the moment, you make the best decisions that you can possible, and then we'll see what the fans think. And sometimes the decision that you thought would just absolutely crush the game, the fans actually don't even notice, and you're like, oh god, thankfully no one worried about that. But then other times, the decision that you're like, this ain't going to be no big deal, people pick up on a lot, right? And it's really hard to know until the game comes out. So that's kind of a long-winded answer saying, yeah, I totally get where everyone's coming from. I really do, because I'm on that. But at the same time, yep, it is challenging. Video games are complicated. If they weren't, everyone would be making them all the time and being super successful at them. So it is what it is, right?
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess so. For our last question, since our time is almost up, is there something that you want to clear up about Anthem that you feel maybe people have misinterpreted from any of the information that's gone out?
Good question. It's weird because everyone kind of has a different interpretation and a different wrong interpretation, and really you can't really clear those up until the people get their hands on the game.
Yeah.
That said, I'll kind of be generic and vague, and I'll say Anthem is a very different experience than what you're used to. It blends a cooperative experience shooter with great flight mechanics, with story and characters that you actually can kind of fall in love with. Sorry, love is the wrong word. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Great relationships. Because again, people are going to throw that back at me in 2 months. You said that.
It's platonic. It's platonic love,
yes,
people.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And so you can do a lot of things in Anthem that you can't do anywhere else. And of course, I cannot fault anyone for drawing comparisons to both outstanding products in the marketplace and our past products because they haven't played the game yet.
Yeah.
But once they do, they'll see the differences. And once they're able to kind of see how it all comes together, they will definitely see the differences. And we will do our very best in the next 3 to 6 months or whatever to highlight what makes Anthem really unique and really special. But I want people to kind of understand that it's easy to make comparisons, but once you actually get the game, or once you get more information, you're going to see the true differences and the magic that we're trying to bring with the game.
That's all the questions we have for you today.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time.
That worked out pretty well. That's exactly half an hour.
Yeah. So I mean, we're definitely excited for Anthem. We can't wait to hear more, and thanks for coming on the show with us. So
no problem.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for your time. It's been great.
No worries, and shout out to folks like you doing the podcast and kind of generating community and following the things that we're doing and trying to educate folks about what the game is about, and just in general, thanks for being interested in what we're doing, and we really, really, really appreciate it, and we really love you guys. It's awesome in a totally platonic way. Remember.
All right. Thank you so much, Brad, for setting up this interview. Mike, thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah.
And just a general thank you to everybody at BioWare for making Anthem. This has been a real experience for not only us as fans, but also us as podcasters. So thank you.
Awesome. No problem. Take it easy, guys.
Guys, that was awesome. So now we've
Great
got
stuff.
everything that we learned from talking with Mike. First of all, Devon, JD, great job. So I kind of want to get, how was it? I mean, this is probably the first time you've ever had an interview with someone that's actually working on a video game, right?
Yeah, I would say a full interview. Yeah, I mean, I've talked to developers before and that have worked on other games, but when I was going to school, but never for official.
So what's the perception? I mean, the perception when I think about game developers that work on all this stuff that we've been obsessed about for a whole year since we've been doing this podcast, it's like, oh man, I can't believe you're actually able to talk to this guy. But it sounds like, just a normal guy that wants to create the best video game that he can.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I was like super nervous leading up to this interview. But
We could tell.
just because I'm excited
man.
to talk to him. And, so I was just like, but I guess
again?
it's the same with not one show a day.
Do it again?
Like
Do
one
it again?
show a day.
Was that like a rapper?
Yeah, raptor there. But no, I mean, as with all the devs that we've talked to, they're all super excited for Anthem. They've been working really hard on it, and they really want to get it into people's hands and let people play it. And so, I mean, the overall feel I got from the conversation when he's super excited, for Anthem, and they're all doing a lot of work. And they've got 240 days, 233 if you get the Legion of Dawn edition, and I'm guessing they got to be done at least a week or two before that. So
Well, they also
Hopefully.
have the betas that they've
Yeah.
announced.
they got
Pre-order.
the demos or betas, whatever they're gonna call them.
Demos, I guess they call them.
But yeah, no, there's not much time left for them, and so
And JD, real quick, this is probably, I mean, you live and breathe BioWare games, so this is probably like, I don't know if I can say dream come true for you to talk with someone that actually worked on the games that have influenced your whole gaming career.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was I filmed. Well, I've filmed interviews before for class projects and stuff like that when I was in school, and but I was still like super nervous about like maybe things going sideways, and if you never know what could happen, especially when it's
Especially when you're using Skype.
Yeah.
And having to talk to Devon. People fall asleep while playing games with him. You said it, man.
it's all right. I'll black the screen out during the YouTube video.
Oh, nice.
We're
Nice.
just gonna replace it with just a giant image of a donkey.
Yeah.
So
Sorry, what? Donkey?
So real
You and I
quick,
don't even know each other that well.
look, man. Look, all I know is that Mike used all of my swearing budget in the interview, so I
It's
can't
true.
say anything.
He
Drop
did.
a few cuss words.
He did.
right here.
He did.
You guys didn't tell them it's a family-friendly show. We can just beep that out. We've got the technology. So a couple things that we learned, that the dietary habits of the people at BioWare vary between, one
Teams?
branch, they're just down in Red Bulls like crazy, keeping that market afloat up in Canada. But the question that we asked him about the scars, and the answer he gave us is, the scars, they're related to insects and the shapers. So quick speculation that I had on this, I mean, I'm guessing that there's probably like these hive of wasps or some sort of creatures that's just sitting next to this Anthem, this relic, the shaper relic that's probably mutating these things. And I'm kind of excited, like I enjoy the insect aesthetic. That's hard to say. I don't know if I can say that again. But just the way that the bugs looked in the demo, I'm excited to see more of that because that's kind of a cool visual. It's more organic, not so much we're just, fighting robots or anything, but it's going to have I think it's going to have a really cool look. So I'm kind of excited about that. You guys, when you heard that I was right, that the Scar are actually not humans, was it just one of those, another tick marks that, yep, Steve's right about something again?
So one of the things I wanted to mention also, I'd have to find the interview, but I'm pretty sure Jonathan Warner talked about that the Scar live in metal hives. Like they create metal hive-like structures in one of the interviews that he did. I'm going to have to find it. But
No, it was in the, I think it was from one of the Game Informer ones, but go ahead. Anyway.
But yeah. No, I thought it was interesting, and then talking about how the visual cues and things, if you see insects or hives of insects, that it's just a cue to let you know that there's scar around. And I was also wondering, for their armor, I mean, they kind of look like insects before in their armor, but I just figured, maybe that's just the way they like their armor. But, so, I don't know.
Mike, JD, did you guys have any thoughts when we were talking about the scars and the relation to insects?
I think it's cool that they are a race, a unit, a faction that is influenced heavily by this thing that we are going to learn more about, and so we get to learn, how do we know? I know we see ourselves fighting them, but I mean, do we have to fight them? Is that part of the game? Do we get to make that choice where, we're gonna let the scars be, kind of thing? Maybe I'm assuming from the demos that we are gonna fight them, but it would be cool if there was that. It's cool to see. It's cool to see, and it'll be cool to see how they react to us and we react to them, and if they're just ways to things to shoot. So,
yeah. JD, you have any comments on the shape?
Well, one of the things that I thought was really cool during the interview was when he mentioned that, like, if you see a lot of insects around, that could be an indication of the scars being somewhere in the vicinity. And I thought that was a real cool, kind of like environmental clues that as you're exploring and going around in the world, like, you could just kind of look around and you're like, okay, I'm seeing a lot of bugs. There must be scars nearby. So even if you can't necessarily see them or hear them or whatever, but you have some kind of like sign or omen that enemies are nearby. Like, I just think that adds a new layer to gameplay and exploration.
Yeah, there's possibility for them to leave trails or clues for us to go find a certain enemy by leaving indicators like this. It doesn't have to be a blatant, oh, here's a swarm. It could be, maybe you're walking around and you do see one or two bugs, and depending on which way you go, that could increase until you find the hive. So that's a really cool thing that they're doing. I really like that. And the next thing, he talks about the storm cape. It's like, guys, we got to have the storm cape. Hopefully they figure out the physics. I'm guessing the second that the storm lifts off, that cape just goes crazy, flying around all over the place. So hopefully they can figure out the physics on that, because I would hate to see the storm without a cape. It's kind of cool.
I had a chuckle picturing that, like, in my head when he said, like, if we can just get those physics worked out and that cape just shaking all over the place. I thought that's kind of funny because, I mean, it's just the visual of, standing there still in your cape going all crazy in the wind.
Yeah, it's going to be like a what is that called? It's the cape of something. I don't know.
Doctor Strange capes? Yeah, it's something. But that, I mean, those things that you think about or the things you don't think about when you think about gameplay development. When we're like, well, is there going to be this and this and this? We're like, no, we're working on the cape to make sure it looks okay.
Yeah. It's like, no, the cape's flapping around. We got to get the cape physics down.
Exactly.
And I think that kind of thing is important, because that cape is one of the things that really sets the storm apart from the ranger. Or else it kind of just looks like it could potentially be another ranger. But having that flare is really important. So hopefully they figure that out and that thing doesn't get deleted, because that would be pretty sad if it doesn't come out. So the next thing he talked about also, Devon, you asked him about weapons and if we're going to be able to upgrade the attributes, because we know we're going to be able to customize them for their
shaders.
So what do they use? They use customization and personalization. So we're going to be able to personalize it.
Yeah.
So the question was if we're going to be able to customize it. And it makes it sound like there is some sort of infusion system that they have that we'll be able to upgrade, but that's not really the main focus. The answer that I really like that he gave is that we're going to be chasing new weapons. Not so much, this is the weapon I want, this is the weapon I want to upgrade, but it's going to be a chase of, this new weapon is out, I need to go find that, I need to play with the new thing. And I think there's a lot of options for, the way they've been talking about releasing content for Anthem, that potentially there's just going to be, there will always be a new weapon. It seems like they'll be able to release, I don't know how many they can release in a month, or if that's even going to be their model, but it'll be something that we can strive for. So there's not going to be this, if you get these guns, you're good to go. There'll always be a loot chase instead of grinding for a weapon. It sounds like there'll be, maybe direct paths in order to get or unlock the new weapons.
I think one of the key things he talked about there, and one of the other questions we talked to him about creating a new IP was when he said, you have the base idea of these storms and things that change the environment and change the world, with the Shaper storms and other things, how you can really do things to infinity, basically. Like you can iterate on it in so many different ways because it's built from the ground up to be where, okay, these things happen and it changes everything, changes all kinds of things in the game. So I think they gave themselves probably an easier way of, okay, hey, there's new weapons, there's new gear or whatever in the world because a Shaper Storm came through or something else happened, or we found new relics or different things, that have created new opportunities and easy ways for them to bring new weapons, new gear into the lore and into the story. So,
Mike, did you have anything to touch on the weapons from what Mike talked about?
I think it's cool. I like that you get to chase weapons and it's not just this is your gun, this is your sidearm, this is your rocket launcher. It's that chase to go something to go for, and I like that aspect. That's cool.
Right on, JD.
The thing that I liked the most was probably the fact that Mike was saying that if a weapon isn't fun, it's not going to make it into the game. And like it's a very simple concept, but it's one that I agree with because, there's a lot of guns in a lot of different types of games, and there are some guns in certain games and certain franchises that are held in comparison to Anthem quite often that I maybe only enjoy maybe half of them, and the rest of them I could do without entirely, but I still have to deal with them showing up in my loot. So
yeah, one thing I've always not liked about games like this is those low level weapons or the trash weapons that you pick up just to pick up for mats and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It always feels kind of like a waste to me to take the time to make those weapons that are just going to be thrown away after you pick up the next one. And that's
Right.
that's an RPG thing. As you progress, you get better weapons, so those weapons fall off. So I don't know if that's something that will ever be solved, but always like, man, a developer spent time making that level 1 weapon, the best that they can make it, and then it gets played for maybe a couple minutes and then thrown out and never sees the light of day again. So
Exactly.
it needs to go to like an island for misfit weapons.
well, I think
That's
they, with the curve they have, like they've talked about before, how it's going to be a lot different, So in other games where maybe we leveled up a lot faster and those weapons were of no value, maybe the weapons will be valuable longer because it's going to take you longer to level up, maybe.
A slower leveling system. That makes sense.
Because, they talked about, leveling up actually makes a difference, and there's a difference between a level 25 and a level 30 character, and it's not just a couple hit points, so.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, and then we asked a question about the Anthem of Creation and had him touch on that. So the way he explained the Anthem of Creation, it almost felt like it was very much like he's explaining the Force. It's kind of all around you. It binds things together.
It's everywhere.
To the light side and the dark side.
It's everywhere and nowhere.
Yeah,
It's
so-
here and there.
so
It's
at
to
first-
and fro.
Stop and go.
That's what makes
Gas
the
station.
world go round.
So one of the
Gas
things
station.
I thought of when we first heard about the Anthem of Creation, they almost made it sound like it was like this physical thing that was on the planet. But now, after talking with Mike, I guess it's just something that's there. It's around you. It reacts with the Shaper relics. So maybe it's just some form of energy that's actually in the air. And when the Shaper relics are there, it's able to activate it somehow. Maybe there's an influence controlling it. Maybe not. Maybe it's completely random. Maybe we'll find out more in the story. He kind of kept it so to not give out any spoilers because, made it sound like it's kind of a big story beat. So better that it's not spoiled right now. So what do you
It
guys
was
think
kind of
about
fun how he was navigating that road and like, well, what can I tell you? What can I not tell you?
that? Yeah,
It was fun.
It's really hard because they would love to talk about everything
Right.
about the game to get people excited about the game, but it's like, how much of you want me to skip ahead and read you chapters in the book or just let you
Well, and also, like
Yeah.
he said, if maybe they tell us about something and then that feature doesn't make it into the game, and then they're going to be like, oh, you said, that this was in the game in this podcast, and it's not in the game, what the crap. We've all seen that, it's like, oh, they showed this off, like, obviously, hey, you see those mountains? You can go there. We've all heard that before, and then the game comes out and it's like, see those mountains?
Man.
You cannot
can't
go
go
there.
there.
So,
can never go there, Simba. That's beyond our
I know we told you
realms.
that 2 years ago, but No. So I mean, it's got to be difficult. It's like we can't overpromise and underdeliver, and there's things that are going to be cut, and we all know that. And it's like you said, they just reach a point where it's like, okay, we can't put anything more into the game as it's launching, and so we have to just stop adding new features, and we have to figure out which ones we have to cut in order to get the game finished and into a shape of what we can ship it out as, and then try our best to include those later on. So.
And that's got to be a really hard balance. And then JD asked about going underwater. So one of the things, JD, you talked about the loading screens in Mass Effect were just hidden behind elevators that sometimes would go, if your system was bogged down, that elevator ride would last a little bit longer. But Mike did confirm that going underwater is not hiding a loading screen of any kind. It's going to be an explorable area. You're still kind of playing with other things that you can do down there. Yep. I know John Warner gave an interview. I forget who the interview was with, but he said that there is going to be lots of stuff to find under the water. So there'll be lots of opportunity to search,
to explore.
I'm guessing.
But one thing that's for sure is there's no combat.
No combat.
No fighting.
Yep.
Mike was very clear on no fighting underwater.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, Aquaman.
Which is a shame. I was hoping there'd be crazy
torpedoes,
huge fish and
giant fish, or
I'll settle for
creatures that you have to survive.
Did we see underwater creatures in the demo?
We saw fish and stuff, but nothing.
But nothing big.
Nothing.
No krakens.
Nothing big.
Okay.
No, nothing that Ahab would get excited about.
Yeah, this gives them the opportunity to hide a bunch of stuff underwater to where, you know what, if you haven't leveled up this skill of swimming or being able to go under here, you're probably not going to be able to get this. So it gives them incentive to, some of the players probably won't get this if they're not focusing on underwater exploration. And some
if
of
just
them
stick on land, yeah.
Right, so some of that cool stuff can be hidden under there, and it'll be like, hey, where'd you find that, gun that shoots out water and, I don't know, laser darts or something? It's like, well, you got to be a good swimmer like I
got
am.
this squirt gun at Toys R Us.
Did you just confirm a water gun in Anthem?
I don't think I did. I definitely made up the water gun that squirts laser darts. So, but they did say, if a gun is fun, it will make it into Anthem. So who knows? Maybe the water laser dart gun will be fun.
I think, being able to maybe go caving, or whatever. Because you said, you're going under there, you're going to find explorable places that are just underwater and open up to new areas. And so I think that'd be really cool. It's just going through these huge caves and seeing how far you can go under there. And that's totally going to take up a lot of time when you're trying to explore, looking for runes and other information. So,
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have this thought earlier. I had it now, obviously, when Devon was talking about that. But how cool would it be to, just be swimming around underwater, and then you follow one underwater cavern, and there's actually a room with hidden enemies inside of it. It's underwater caves. That'd be amazing. Finding entirely new enemy encounters and potentially loot hidden just in the various bodies of water on this Anthem planet.
Yeah, that would be really cool. And it sounds like, there is potential for that. Even if it's not at launch, it's something that, maybe a shape artifact activates, and then it does open up that area that now, you thought you explored this area, but now something is open. So it gives you incentive to go back, explore something new, find new loot, find new enemies possibly. So one of the things that we also asked, if it's hard creating a new IP. And I liked it when Mike said that, when you create a new IP, you want to create a concept with infinite promise, with context to build off of. And that, I know that's high level, this is what we want to do, and it all sounds really good, but it's really interesting that they want it to be open. They want it to have possibilities to grow, to change, and not just be this one set thing. So I really like what he said about that. So
it's a good quote.
Also, one of the things that I think this is exclusive, unless I've just missed all the other things that he's talked about. So he mentioned different factions in the world. He mentioned the heroes of the world were the Freelancers, the Sentinels, and the Lancers. And I haven't heard anyone else talk about the Lancers in Anthem. Have you guys heard any talk of the Lancers?
The only time I've heard about it was when people on Discord and stuff were talking about it, but they were just using it as a short
for freelancer.
Yeah, for freelancers. So,
and he did specifically say Freelancer, Sentinels, and Lancers. So
and Lancers, yeah.
Yeah, all in reference to representatives of
Factions.
different factions.
Okay, so I think we know that the Sentinels are the javelins that are in Fort Tarsus that are in blue. They have the little chevron tabard on them.
Yep.
I think we're safe in assuming that those are the Sentinels, right? From what
Yeah,
we've
well, I
heard?
mean, they already told us the javelins in Fort Tarsus are the Sentinels. So
Yeah.
All right, so the Lancers could potentially be the javelins that we've seen in the spice market looking thing.
Mhm.
They look kind of like they've got underwater stuff going on to me. That's what those javelins look like. So we don't know if those are the Lancers. I mean, their javelins definitely don't scream Lancer. When I hear Lancer, I think, it could be like a faction of just interceptors because they're fast and they hit hard and get out. So that's kind of the imagery I think of when I hear Lancer for everything else. So.
well, I mean, but they looked like Ranger. I mean, they looked like they were Ranger javelins. So
Right. And Lancers when I hear Lancer, I think, oh, they're probably a group of interceptors. But
Yep.
that's just from reading way into nothing for that Mike gave us. So
I mean, they did say I think in one of the Game Informer articles where they talked about when they were playing, there was like little side quest missions to go help a downed Sentinel or whatever that's out in the outside Fort Tarsus or whatever. So, I mean, I know they talked about how the Freelancers are the only ones that go out, but there's definitely a lot more people besides the Freelancers that go out there. So those other factions are definitely out there doing things, but who knows? So.
and it's very possible that these could be groups that we're going to gain reputation with. We'll have story quests with them.
Mm-hmm.
Could be that, with our Cypher and the other person that's inside of our Strider, that these are the quests that, if we get this loot and this salvage, we're going to take it back to the Sentinels, or we're going to take it back to the Lancers, and that could open up other story dialogue also for in the future. So I'm guessing that's part of those factions, which is kind of exciting. I mean, there's other stuff that we haven't heard about yet, so they're holding a lot of stuff close to the chest, which makes me, excited that there is other stuff here. So we haven't seen like all the cards. They're still going to release more and more that we get to dive into. So
It just really makes me want to play Anthem, honestly. It's super frustrating because I'm like, I just really want to play Anthem. But
I really want to know what's going on.
yeah, and one of the things that I really liked when we asked about the comparisons to other games, or what, the misconceived notions that gamers have about it is, what that BioWare is, they're always evolving. They're always trying something new. And when he was comparing the evolution from Baldur's Gate to Mass Effect to Dragon Age, I almost say BioShock for some reason, that it's kind of hard. It's almost like, I guess the analogy is if you have a bunch of brothers like I do, that you're always being compared to the people that have come before you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have like a brother that like everyone at your school likes, and then you're always getting compared to that brother, and it makes you like have this animosity and hatred towards him that you never want to hang out with him ever, and then for some reason you end up doing a podcast with him. So there's kind of like that separation that.
Wait a second. What's going on?
Oh. That there's.
This is the first
Sounds-
I'm hearing of it, by the way.
This sounds oddly specific.
Welcome to our Family Matters episode.
Yeah, right now. So they do want it to be different. I mean, there's one thing to be said for this is your history. This is the parents that these brothers came from. But this is something new, something that we want to stand on its own and not just rest on the laurels of these other things that have come before it. So, I mean, they want it to be successful. Of course they do. They've been working hard on it. They've been pouring their souls out. I want it to be successful too, because the game looks amazing. So,
Yeah. Well, I mean, they want Anthem to be Anthem, right? So,
Right.
I mean, obviously people are going to compare it, like Mike said, people are going to compare it, and he doesn't have a problem with that because they haven't played it, And so he says once people play it, they're going to understand what Anthem really is and how it's different and not the same to what they've been comparing it to. So,
Yeah, and that was one thing that he said about all the feedback that they received from the people who actually played the game at EA Play, was that the majority of the good feedback, like the more people got the opportunity to get their hands on the game, the more happy they were with it, the more positive the feedback. Like, apparently there's just something about actually playing the game for yourself that just feels very intuitive. And like, we didn't get a chance to get our hands on with it, but I hope we do in the future. So we can
did.
experience for ourselves.
I totally did.
Don't you lie to me. Don't you
I did.
lie to me, Mike. Don't
Twice.
I touched the computer tower that it was being played on. Does it count?
I played it. I didn't play it.
So I
In
also
my
like.
mind, I played it.
Mike was pretty open, not you, Mike, other Mike. Mike was pretty open about the whole developer versus gamer aspect of, developing a game, but then also, being a gamer that pays $60 for these AAA titles that you expect to work out of the box and expect to, return that value.
Mm-hmm.
And just that dichotomy of, I'm developing this, I want it to be as good as it is. But things happen during development. We've all heard the stories of how games are developed, how hard it is. It's not easy. Like Devon was saying, things get cut. At the end of the line, it's, you make the best decision possible. Even if that's not the decision you want, you make the best one that you possibly can at that time for the betterment of the game. So it's very interesting to hear from the inside. Because I'm guessing a lot of the people that are developing video games also play video games, so they have that other side that it is hard to hold this developer to a standard when you yourself are trying to hold yourself to this standard also. So just kind of an interesting discussion on being a developer and also wanting to play great video games. So
Right.
Right now, so was there anything else from the interview that you guys wanted to touch on? Things that you took away, things that you really enjoyed about talking with Mike?
This would be for you and JD, Devon. So
No, I'm thinking about it.
you guys talked to him. We
yeah,
weren't
no,
able
we
to be
did.
there. You scheduled it when we were working. When we
Yeah,
had other
We were
obligations.
all privy to when this was scheduled.
So
And if you couldn't be bothered to show
so
up,
Yeah,
that's it, man.
I
Next
mean,
time.
honestly, the just having the opportunity in and of itself is phenomenal. When I joined this podcast, I did not think that I would even get close to having these sorts of opportunities. I hoped definitely, but I never thought it would actually happen. And here,
Saying you had low expectations of us, JD? What's going on?
Well, no, I temper my expectations. I hope for the best, but I'm not surprised if nothing happens.
Yep.
But Mike was a very friendly individual. I know he didn't really talk much.
Weird brother.
I know he didn't really talk much during the interview, but we also briefly got to speak to Brad, and Brad seemed like a nice guy as well. But once again, thank you to the people at BioWare. Thank you to Mike Gamble for giving us this opportunity. Thank you to Brad for scheduling it and setting it up. And let's do it again sometime, huh?
Yeah. And I think we covered pretty much everything on there. It was really good to talk to him, and it just made me more excited for Anthem. Just like I said, talking to each developer that we have, and just seeing how excited they are for their game, and makes me excited to play it. So, I mean, because you could definitely, I know when I was going to school, like, there was a lot of times where people were like, yeah, sometimes you got to make games you just don't like. And they're like, yeah, we need to throw a game pitch for a Hannah Montana game. And they're like, I don't want this crap, So it's great to be able to play games where developers are making them that really want to play them. And so I'm looking forward to it.
Well, on that note, guys, this has been, to all our new listeners that are catching us for the first time, if you made it this far, I'm really impressed. Thanks for sticking with us and hanging out till the end of the show. This has been episode 43 of the Freelancer Codex podcast, the longest running Anthem podcast on the internet. You can find us at freelancercodex.com, where we post all of our episodes, post all of our YouTube videos, and this interview as well. You can find us at facebook.com/freelancercodex. You can find us at Twitter at freelancercodex. You can email us if you have any questions, constructive criticism about the show. You can email us at freelancercodex@gmail.com. And until next time, there's a Shaper Storm on the horizon. We'll see you on the other side.
Later.
Peace.
Bye-bye.
Oh, don't forget the Discord.
Oh, yeah, you can join us on Discord. I don't have that link. I'll put it in the show notes or whatever.
Just forget it.